To get through to you. Hey, why not? That's our era. Tell me little lies, see you smile too.
Oh, boy.
Cause I know I messed up, baby, and I know you're fed up. Welcome on in, y'all. Happy Sunday, happy Sunday. Listening to a little Belle Biv DeVoe.
She is, y'all.
Cause I know I, baby, and I know you're sugar. Clearly, I'm the one who's the actress in the family. My husband tries to be all composed. I'm not. Okay.
That's because I had my years all that stuff.
Well, I'm expressing myself. I was a sheltered child. I was sheltered. Hey, everybody. Welcome on in. Listening to a little Belle Biv DeVoe on this Sunday. We do not own the rights to the music. It just sounds good to me today. You have to do that every now and then. So come on in. We're going to go ahead and get started because we see you all coming on in. Look, we won't be on here very long tonight, but we wanted to bring you some encouraging and some motivating words as my phone just happens to ring at this time. And whoever it is, you're just going to have to call back a little later. So our topic tonight, honey, why don't you share our topic right before we get started? Go ahead.
Well, our topic tonight, man, is going to be, purpose within a marriage.
Yeah.
Purpose within a marriage, not the purpose for marriage.
Yeah.
But purpose within a marriage. Okay.
And I want you to talk about the difference with that, because in setting this up, you said there was a difference. Singles are looking for the purpose of marriage.
Right.
But, if you're, and this is still good for singles too. It's good for you if you're single. It's good for you if you're married. Okay. If you're single, the purpose of marriage would apply. But we're actually in the marriage, and we want to talk about what's purpose within the marriage, because I don't know if a lot of people think about that. I think they just think, woo, I'm married. You understand? And the purpose is he serves me, you understand, or she serves me. No, God has a purpose for your marriage. You understand? Exactly. And I have a testimony that I'm actually going to share to kind of let people know where we're going with this. And I also want to take an opportunity to welcome our audience on our Anchor podcast, Life, Love, and
Leadership.
There you go. It's Kisa, and it's also Dr. Marcus Jefferson. So we're recording our podcast as well. And if you haven't had an opportunity, I want you to check that out on Anchor. We talk about all things life, love, and leadership, and relationship as well. And again, tonight, we're joined with our Facebook audience tonight, and we're talking about the purpose within marriage, or God's purpose within your marriage. Okay. Yeah. So I want to say, and just begin with a testimony.
Go ahead.
I thought about the fact of, when we were first married a couple of years ago. Okay. I'm setting the stage for everybody so you can see what I'm talking about. So we've been married a couple of months. And so clearly, when you first get married, I don't know that you're thinking God's purpose. I think you're thinking, whoo, I got him. You know what I mean? And you're thinking, whoo, I got her, But I remember very clearly once we took our honeymoon a little bit later, a couple of months after we were married, and we went to Gatlinburg. Believe it or not, it was my first time going to Gatlinburg. Okay, like in all of my 47 years, my first time going to Gatlinburg, and my only time going to Gatlinburg. So we were up there, and I remember this was after a couple of months of us being married, and I remember saying, "Okay, God, okay? We're married now. What is your purpose though? How do we take this to the next level?" I mean, because let me just go ahead and come with a real statement. There's only so much sex that you can have. You understand? And when I say that, I mean that sex is a part of a healthy relationship. But what I'm saying is you can't stay in the bed 24/7. You might wish you can. But you can. You don't. Because after a while, that may get old. There are other things that you want to do. And also, God requires us as stewards to do not only do other things, but to also steward his call and his purpose for our lives. And that plays out in marriage. So as we were in Gatlinburg, I remember talking to the Lord, and we were kind of saying, okay, God, what is it that you want us to do?
Right.
And out of that, God birthed, and I know we spent the better part of 2019 doing this, but out of that, God birthed our Facebook Live, and it's called Let's Get Real, which we're back on and back in the saddle again with it. But we spent the better part of 2019 ministering to singles and ministering to people who wanted to get married, and ministering to people who needed to find hope in that arena, because both of us are divorcees, and both of us, and one marriage before, between both of us married before, divorced, and we found love again. So, we've been single, we've been married before, so we understand on both sides. And it was like out of that, I remember last February is when we said, you know what, let's go ahead and let's encourage people. Let's encourage singles and let's show them how to find love. Therefore, that was birth. And it's gone on and on. This podcast is a result of that purpose in our marriage, because why? We talk a lot about problem solving. We talk a lot about being a blessing to other people, and the things that we have learned, the lessons that we have learned, we want to make sure to be a blessing to you. Make sense?
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense to me. Starting out in marriage, I understood, man, that, the second time around, man, I had to be the type of person, the type of man that, Christ wanted me to be, and not the kind of man that I wanted to be, or this type of man that I thought I should have been in the first marriage. And, and it wasn't healthy, because in the first marriage, I had no vision. I just knew things, man, that I wanted to do. I would go and do those things that I wanted to do, like, just like men, go out and hang out with your guys, go out and, buy cars and try to buy the nice house so you can say, man, I got this nice house, and come over and see it, and all this kind of stuff. But it wasn't vision, it wasn't a vision for my life. It never took the place. There was always a void there. And even with divorce, that was another hit, because prior to, I was married like 20 something years. Yeah. And, so walking, making a decision, man, for my purpose in life and going at it alone was very hard, for me. And I never thought, man, that I would ever find love again, downcast position, and I just recall, man, just telling the Lord, Lord, here am I now, okay, I'm here. I've made the choices. I tore it all down, tore the whole foundation down, all the way down to the ground. Now it was up to you to build it up. Yeah. And, me, I desired marriage because, it's great being with somebody like Teddy Pendergrass said. It feels so good, man, when you love somebody and somebody loves you back, that makes you feel good. Yeah. And so, I wanted for that. And so, for almost 2 years, I sought that, not going out with everybody, but, you are running to females along the way, man, that you talk to. And once your conversation and stuff start, you find out that, no, this ain't.
She's not the one. She wasn't. You're not the one.
Yeah, I said, and you find out very, very, very quickly, man, because once a man knows what he wants, that's what he starts looking for. Mm-hmm. Once he understands, man, what God wants him to do, then that's what he starts looking for. And conversation, you'll find those things if you're patient enough to wait and not want to jump into bed or either spread yourself around, man, before. Right. And this time around, I told myself, hey, if I meet a lady and we're compatible and she's supportive of the things, man, that I tell her, even my weaknesses, but that comes after a while of, you have to develop trust. Mm-hmm. And so, and you got to be able to share your weaknesses with a woman. That lets a woman know, man, that you're really ready for a deeper relationship with them when you can share your weaknesses. And that's what I did with
And can I say something about that? I want you ladies to hear. How many of you tuned in today are single and believing for a mate? You can just talk to me, and I'll post the comments a little bit later. But do we have anybody on who's single and who's believing God for a mate, and particularly women? And I want to go back and put a pin in what you said, because here's the deal. A lot of times as women, or as people, I'm not going to just say as women, but I will speak to the women in saying that when a gentleman reveals his weakness to you, or when you see his weakness, that is not an opportunity. And that's even in marriage. That's in getting to know him. That is in marriage. When he reveals his weakness, that's not an opportunity for you to jump over that. That's not an opportunity for you to keep bringing it up to him. It's an opportunity to say, okay, I need to be praying for him in that arena. You know, I, by default, remember that we were having a conversation. You shared something with me, and I said to you, well, you're doing this. And you said, listen, I know that. My husband said, listen, I shared with you that's a weakness of mine. There's no need for you to continue to bring it up. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really recognize I was doing that. But sometimes as women, we can. And the goal, the idea is not for us to bring it back up. The idea is not for us to rub it in his face. The idea is for us to cover him in that and to pray for him in that. And he's letting you know, I have this issue in this area. You understand? You're going to see some things. I don't have it all together yet. And guess what, ladies? We don't have it all together in some areas. There are areas that I don't have it all together yet, you know, but it's not his point, and he does not do this, but it's not his point to bring it up. So I just wanted to mention that, because I think sometimes as people, and sometimes even as women, we may see a weakness, and, you know, a woman just doesn't recognize sometimes the power that she has of influence.
Right.
What you can say, what you say can tear a man, can tear a person down.
Right.
God has given you that influence. So when you see the weakness, cover it. Or encourage him to work on the weakness instead of tearing him down. Okay.
All right. And me, I would say, you know, the purpose why you're in a marriage. Let's deal with that for a moment. And in the book of Corinthians, the 7th chapter explains that. I think it's in verse 10 or 15, between 10 and 15. If you read it, it says, if the unbeliever wants to leave, let them go. You know, and it tells you, man, that God has called you to peace. And it also says, man, that you have to remember, man, that in a marriage, you're going to suffer many things. But remember, man, God has called each one of you to a certain place in life, a certain place in life. And Jesus, I think Jesus explained that very, very, he clarified it before Paul ever even said these statements to the church of Corinth. Jesus clarified it and said it wasn't that way in the beginning. He was talking about divorce. It wasn't so. He said, you know, for a man should leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. And then he said, for this reason, the two shall become one. He gave you the reason.
Yes. The
reason for marriage is for the two to become one, not longer two. Mm-hmm. And it is very, 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 and you have to be very, very, very sensitive to the Spirit of God, man, when you're in a marriage, because you're trying not to stay two. You both have different visions. And when you're staying two, die means two. Yeah. Man, so when you're staying two, you have a division in the house, which is division. And Jesus clearly declared, man, that a kingdom divided against itself, it cannot stand. That's why he said the two shall become one, flesh, for this reason. Yeah. He gave you the reason why marriage is so important, for the two to become one. Why? Because we always say, you know, Solomon said it best. Solomon said, man, you know, one is better than two. Mm-hmm. You know, man, because if one go to bed, the other one can keep the other one warm. Two is better than one. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Two is better than one. You know, man, because if they, you know, go to bed together, you know, the other one can keep the other one warm. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's a covering. Yeah. You know, that's why it's important, man, for the two to become one. That's the purpose in your marriage. Is whatever your husband is going after, women, you're a helper to him. You know, you're just like the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is called helper. Mm-hmm. So, you know, man, so a woman is called helper. Isn't that can I run, man, the two are the same. They're both helpers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in saying that, you know, the man himself has to have that vision. He has to have the vision so the woman can submit to the vision, not to him. I mean, you know, the Bible clearly declares, man, in the book of Ephesians, it says, man, that, you know, man, that husbands love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, he said, wives, what? Submit.
Submit.
Does he tell the wives to love the husband?
No.
It's not there. He said your job is to submit, because when a man gives a woman in a marriage love and gives himself up to that, then the woman automatically submits. And the Bible said, submit to women, your own husband, not to another woman's husband.
Right. Right.
So, you know,
yeah.
So, but that's the purpose within a marriage, is so that the two shall become one. You both have made a decision, man, that, you know, and me, I tell people all the time, you don't marry on love. Yeah. Yeah. You don't marry on love. Yeah. If you do, you marry on agape love. Yeah. Which is unconditional. Therefore, you don't put stipulations when you break up, or you don't fall out of love. Yeah. You know, or you can't say I don't love him anymore. Why? Because you have agape love, which is unconditional love for this person. And if you can't look at that person and say, I love you unconditionally through your faults, through your weaknesses, through all of that right there, then guess what? That's another vision. That's a recipe, man. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a recipe, man. That's the recipe, man, that you made in your head that's not coming into fruition. So therefore you give up because it's not turning out the way that you thought the recipe should turn out. Mm-hmm. Man, so you give up in the marriage. So I think I've talked, and I'm gonna let you chime in. Chime in.
You know, this wasn't anything. I got you. You know, it wasn't meant to be anything long, deep, or difficult, or heavy tonight. I think we just wanted to come and bring you some words of encouragement. You know, people, and not just even for single people. Even sometimes you can be in a marriage and have a what do you call it? Have two visions. Have the division within marriage. Okay, and if you're going to succeed, if we want marriage God's way, then we're going to submit to God's plan and purpose for marriage. You understand? Right. And I heard my husband say submit, and boy, as he said submit, I feel like there's some people who are probably trembling. Some women, you know, who are just like, oh my God, submit. I don't have to submit. Uh-huh. You know, ladies, sometimes the thing that has caused us or helped us to succeed is also the thing that has been our downfall in relationships. You know, climbing the corporate ladder, being successful, you know, buying your home, buying your car, not needing, quote unquote, not needing a man to do anything, being able to take care of everything. That's great, because I understand that we've been in positions where we've had to take care of it alone. We've been in positions where we have not been able to depend on. We've been waiting, and we would love to have had that covering, and it just hasn't been there. However, the thing that some of us need to do is we need to allow God to work on our hearts in order to prepare us, so when the covering comes, it's not a war. You're able to step back, and you're able to submit to his leadership as he submits to God. It doesn't make you any weaker to submit to your husband. It doesn't make, you know, but somebody gets to be the leader. You know, I shared earlier on 10 days of positive inspiration. I'm on day 7 today of sharing 10 days. And I talked about, you know, working in our career. Listen, everybody can't be the vice president of the department. Everybody can't be the manager of the department. Everyone cannot be the supervisor of the department. Those are limited positions. So even in your working, there is a submission that has to take place. And sometimes the problem is, listen, I've submitted to these folks at work all day. When I come home, I pay the bills here. I want to do. See that attitude right there, that attitude, because really and truly, it's not just you. Even if as a single woman, it's not just you. You should be submitted to guess who? God. So if you have an issue even submitting to God, you think God's going to release his son? Release his son to come into a place of chaos where he's got to fight with you about a leadership position? You understand? Some of you don't recognize the peace that you're going to have. I'm not saying that it diminishes what you do. Listen, if you're a leader, you're just a leader. If you're a person who handles business, you handle business. My husband is not intimidated by the fact that I'm a person who is kind of a get it done person. But I'm also a submitted woman. I'm submitted to my husband in this house. I'm not competing with him to be the head in this house. That's not even in the arena. I have a very what's the word? I guess outgoing personality. I was single, so there are things I handle for years on my own, but I'm more than happy. I submit, and I have seen the blessing in submitting. I handled my own bills, but when we came together, we had to put this thing together. He sat me down and talked to me about it. You understand? And I have seen the blessing. I have seen, am I by myself? I have seen what God has done, which has been mind blowing. Because there were some things that I was doing wrong. I had to submit to his wisdom in some arenas that I was just absolutely wrong, used to doing it my way. But wow, since I've done it, wow. And let me just share this as a testimony. In doing some of the things that my husband shared with me, I was finally able to launch out and to do so and to manifest a lifelong dream of mine, just in using more financial wisdom. So listen, ladies, God is not assigning that man in a leadership position to diminish you, but he is God's instrument, okay, to lead you on to the promise. Because guess what? The husband may be the head, but guess what? Every head has a neck, okay? And the neck turns the head, okay? So he only has one head. You understand? He doesn't need their Tom. Not too rough. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. But listen, you don't have to act like you have it together. You can let go of your superwoman cape. You understand? God is the one ultimately who is the lead. And when you trust God to even lead your husband. And really and truly what the vision looks like, I'll be real honest with you, it's you and your husband, and God is the one. There is a triangle. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can argue with me. You can have a debate. Sorry, I just kicked the table. I'm not going to debate you on this. Me personally, I understand that God is the center for us and God is the head, but I also understand that my husband is the head of the household, okay? And my husband submits to God. I have no issue with that, If that's what you have an issue with, listen, eat the fish and spit out the bones, okay? We still love you with the love of the Lord. If you just say, well, I can't do that, Keith, I hear you, but nobody's going to come and do, okay, that's fine, but that very well could be the problem.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not gonna let the men off the hook either, man, because some men, man, without vision, they frustrate the entire house.
Yeah.
Man, because they do not understand, man, where their position is with Christ. And therefore it makes them hard. It makes a woman hard to follow.
Yeah.
A guy, man, when he does not have a vision for the marriage. Your purpose for the marriage, like I said earlier, is the two shall become one. What? In one vision. Mm-hmm. So therefore, man, God expects the man to have the vision. Therefore, he sends the helper to help you in that vision.
That's good.
He said, it's not good for man to be alone. It's not good, man, for man to do this thing on his own. So he sends what? A woman to help him. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Somebody that's suitable for him. Somebody that fits what he's trying to do. Mm-hmm. And even let me read this right here to you. It says, husband loves your wives. I'm in the book of Ephesians, the 5th chapter and the 25th verse. It said, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with the word through the word. Hold on. Let me read. Cleansing her by the washing with the water through the word. Okay. And without stain or wrinkles or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Okay? So that's how you love. And that's why I come up, man, when you hear me say things, man, like you can only love a person, man, to the degree that you love yourself. Mm. That's where that comes from. I'm just reinterpreting, man, what the Bible says and putting it in a different format for you to understand. And then on top of that, he says, men, how do you get your woman to submit? He said, well, you give up all this other stuff, man, all this other foolishness. And he said, man, and your focus should be on your wife. Even in the book of Corinthians, it tells him, man, he said, for a man cares for the things that'll please his wife. Yeah. You know, he said, man, so the other stuff, man, doesn't really matter. And that's when a woman submit, when she knows that she is the apple of your eye, that she is the focal point of what you're trying to accomplish in life, and she feels a part of it. He said, because you wash her in the word, you talk to her, your tone. Sometimes I can admit, sometimes, man, you're gonna get frustrated with your wife. You know, yeah. There are no perfect marriages. Yeah. But there are suitable marriages. Yeah. There are suitable marriages, and they're able to get through some things. Yeah. So, you know, y'all may get into a big spat. Y'all may get into a disagreement. Yeah. You know, that happens. It does. You know? Yeah. I mean, frustration does set in. Yeah. But when you are following Christ, then guess what? I mean, the dust settles very, 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 very quickly. You know, man, but he says, men, you got to wash your wives in the word. That's saying, man, that you got to know the word. Yeah. You got to know what to say to your wife. And he said, in the word is going to clean all those spots and those blemishes and those wrinkles and stuff. You know? So, man, you got the work to do. God spoke to you first because he said love goes first. Yeah. Love goes before submission. Love goes before submission. Portia Michelle says, good stuff. And then what else? She also says, amen. Yeah. So, you know, man, and then if you go on and read this right here, he says he presents this back to himself. Mm-hmm. Man, so when a man washes a woman and the woman submits to the man and he loves her, he gives himself up for her, and then out there he washes her in the word and he cleans up all the spot and the blemish. He said, man, he presents it back to himself. Mm-hmm. Man, so every day that woman is something that this man wants to look at every day because he know that's what I did. I did that. Wait, do that again. I like that effect of how you did that. I did. Yeah, you know, it's like a guy cleaning and waxing his car. He take time to do all that stuff, and when that car clean, he look at them, man, that thing clean. I mean, fresh and so clean. Can you tell he likes to clean the cars? He likes his whips clean. Seriously. But it's no different. The same wisdom is in it, man, with a woman. Yeah. I mean, women, the words, man, that a man uses and the tone that a man uses. Yeah. And stuff, it can ease a woman's fears. Yeah. It can ease her frustration. Yeah. And it can make her just as confident to be able to help you. Yes. You know, but you got to make, the Bible clearly declares what to do. I didn't say this. This is what the word says. We've got John Johnson. He says, hello, Biles College. Enjoying your message to you both. Oh, appreciate it. John. I have to see John's face. Okay. It's been a while since I've been over at Miles Law School over there. Okay. I got you. Yeah. So we want to say thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And also a special shout out to all of those who are joining us, too, and who will join us via our Anchor podcast on Life, Love, and Leadership. And just want to say to you all, we wish you the best in all of your relationships. And also, you know, people are kind of moving back and getting back to as close to normal as normal can be. So we also want to make sure that you're safe as you go out. Wear your face masks. If you need to wear your gloves. Yeah, it's not over yet, y'all. So as you go back out into life and engage life, be careful. Wear the necessary equipment. Protect yourselves and also protect other people. Okay.
So stay safe out there. We want you to know that we love you, and yes.
And tomorrow night,
Yeah.
we're going to ask. I'm pleading with the guys.
Yeah.
I'll be on Zoom tomorrow night, guys and women. I mean, let me say it that way, both male and female. There's going to be a Zoom tomorrow night that I'll be doing with a great friend of mine. He's from New York. He's going to be coming to us from New York. He's on the front lines of this coronavirus, and he has, man, some words of wisdom for us. I know him from a long time. He went to Birmingham. He went to University of Alabama, Birmingham for economics, and he's taking his skills back up to New York to be on the front lines of this this virus. And he has some, some insight, man, that he can help us with.
What time is that tomorrow that you'll be live?
It's at 7 p.m. tomorrow. And man, we're asking people to, I'm asking guys and girls, man, to go to either my wife's page or either my page and register to be on there, man, ask questions and stuff. And if he has questions, man, that he can answer. Now, he's I'm not the, I mean, he don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
even our leaders don't have all the answers of this country. But I do want y'all to come on and support, man, the Zoom live tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And man, we'll be ready to go, man. For any questions, there'll be a segment, and the questions should last probably about an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes at the most for questions of what's going on. Okay. So I thank you for your time. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and continue to be safe. And we'll see you back in June on Let's Get Real, and also on Life, Love, and Leadership, our podcast. We'll see you then.
See you then.
Take care, and thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Be blessed.